Welcome back to my studio. This is Emma, and a very warm welcome to you if it's your first time here and you've just found me. Well done for doing that, and I hope you'll stick around and we'll have some fun together here in my studio. I'm very lucky. My name is Emma. If you don't know me, I live in Cumbria, which is in the northwest of England, what people call the Lake District. So it's basically a very beautiful place to live, and I'm very lucky to be here. I look out of my studio window onto the local fells or the hills that are around here. Straight ahead of me there's some berries hanging on a tree out there. There's I can't think what you call it, a viburnum with those beautiful red berries, a Gelder rose they call it, don't they? Beautiful red berries, and I'm just kind of watching it. If my eyes go a bit weird, it's because I'm looking at the berries because they're kind of dancing in the wind out there. It's very autumnal here now. Depending on where you are on the world, of course, it might be autumn for you as well. And isn't it just so beautiful? Everything's just slowly turning different shades, different colours. I had a lovely walk out yesterday. The sun was out. We'd had torrential rain in the afternoon, absolutely torrential rain, washing away, all the stones on the lane. And I went for a walk, but it was sunny and absolutely beautiful. And I just went out and had a lovely walk, and it was so peaceful. So I like to think that this is a very peaceful place for you to be as well. I don't know what's going on in your world. I hope you're all well, and I hope you're being creative, whatever you're doing. I find for me that my creative stuff, whatever it is I do, is what brings me joy. It helps me to get through the day. Sometimes if there's tricky things going on, or one has to be very patient these days, I think, because everything seems to be slowing down somehow. Things I'm ordering online, it's really interesting. I've ordered a couple of things recently. I needed some new winter boots, really needed some new winter shoes because the rain would be coming into my other pair. And it took them really about a week or so to come. And I think it's really interesting, don't you think? I don't know if you've noticed this, but I feel like everything is kind of slowing down a bit. Whereas in the past, they would have been there almost the next day. And I'm kind of enjoying it. I've now got that lovely sense of anticipation, like you get at Christmas or your birthday coming up or something really nice that you're looking forward to. It's lovely because if everything comes immediately, there's none of that. So I'm just really appreciating. I've also got some new shirts ordered because, as I've said to you previously, if you've been watching me for a while, I'm slowly watching my wardrobe of clothes sort of disintegrate because I've had them for years, some of these things, and I love them all. They're all old friends, but there does come a point, doesn't there, where you actually do need something new to wear, just because everything's a bit threadbare. Patching things and darning things. This cardigan is a case in point. It's one of my favourite cardigans to wear. It's so soft, and I like it at this time of year when it's a little bit chilly. But I've got darns all over it just to keep it going for a bit longer. So anyway, so patience. So I feel as though this piece has been about patience. Really, it's been a very, very slow piece, hasn't it? I mean, I think I've been working on this piece since June. So I really appreciate you still being with me on it. Today we're going to do lots more stitching, and I'm hoping we're going to perhaps get onto these flowers and maybe even move it towards getting finished. I'm not worried about it being finished. I'm not pushing for it to be finished because I've really relished every little piece that I've put down and every little stitch that I've been doing. And as I say, it's all been really about being patient and slow and just appreciating all these little subtleties and the changes that I've made and the bits I've been adding on or taking off or fiddling about with. So I don't know what's going on in your world, but I hope that you'll enjoy this film today, and it'll bring you a little bit of peace and relaxation and maybe inspire you to get going. If you do get going on something inspired by anything I say or do, please let me know, because I love to know what you're all doing. I wish I could see into your lives a little bit as well, because I just love mixing with people and talking to people and finding out what other people like to do. So let's get on with this, and we'll see where we're up to and move it a bit further forward. Maybe get it finished, I don't know, let's see. Okay, so I've kind of stitched this bit down roughly with some creamy coloured thread, and I've got some of this stitched down now. I'm trying to keep it really simple. You can't really see a lot of the stitching, but it's all just blending in. And what I want to do now is look at the greens that I'd like to use for this lovely green section over here. And I don't have anything too leery. Possibly something like that might help. Just picking out I think the other thing I might get is some yellow, actually, because some of this is kind of got a creamy yellowness to it. Some of it possibly. That certainly might have a part to play somewhere. It's just using what I've got. Okay, I haven't got any shops to rush out to buy. Oops. Oh dear, what a tangled mess in here. Somebody needs to sort this out. Somebody needs to get this tidied up. It's a disgrace. That looks quite nice. Oh, I quite like that. That's got a nice kind of the shade I'm after, which is sort of, oops, oh dear, to untangle this bit. There we go. Get that out of the way a moment. So I've got kind of, yes, I think that's quite nice. I haven't got a lot of this, but there'll be enough to do some of these areas. So I'm going to get on with the green stitching next. So what I'm doing here is I'm just making sure the background flowers are stitched down in the same way that the whole of the background is being stitched down, so that it's all got the same amount of stitching right across the piece. Otherwise we'll end up with funny little bits, and when you put the next layer on top of there, it might just pull it in. So I need this all to be well stitched down, so I'm just free machining into it. So what we've got here now is, this is the original little piece that made me think, ooh, let's make these sort of more 3D. And what I've done down here is I've embellished a little bit more texture and white colour onto here, because I feel as though it needs to have a bit of contrast with the top, and I don't know exactly what colours I'm going to use on the top, but I definitely think it's got to have a sort of, it's got to have a textured feeling to it. It needs to be kind of 3D-ish so that it fits in with everything else, and it's almost like you could reach out and touch the petals of the flower. So I've got to work out how to do this. I'm not quite sure yet whether I'm going to use some cotton curtain interlining, whether that's going to be stiff enough. I don't want it to be able to be seen, so that if somebody's looking at the picture, say from slightly underneath, I don't want that to be seen necessarily, unless it's going to look like this. So it's a bit fiddly, and I'll work it out, and I'm going to play around, and we'll see where we get to. You can see the edges are coming along nicely. I've got some really nice raggedy edges. If I just fold back the tearaway stabilizer, you can see we've got some really nice loose edges. And as I say, if you combine that with the rough stitching, the whole thing is very rough and ready, but the effect is this lovely textural quality, and the light and the shade going on, and these have sort of become, I think, you know, branches or something, or lichen, I don't know, branches with lichen, who knows. It's all about your imagination, it's all about what your eye sees. So I'm going to get on next with these flowers, and we'll see where we get to with those. I'm much happier now. I've got the back more or less stitched down, so it's kind of stable, and I know where I'm going with these in terms of just popping them on top. Okay, so I've been doing lots of sort of stitching, adding some little twiddly bits onto some of the different areas, so that the background is now all more or less done. Obviously I'm going to do my edges at some point, but I'm just leaving this out for now because I feel as though that's protecting these edges as I'm working. I don't want them to get all completely wrecked. You can see on the back lots of really wild raggedy stitching, nothing very exciting, a little bit messy. Some places this stuff's got itself a little bit tangled up. I'll just try and pull that off there. It doesn't really matter, the back isn't going to be seen, but I think it's always interesting when you do see the back, because you can see just how messy it is, you know. So on the front, what I've come up with is, I've actually got some little bits of extra fabric which I'm going to be embellishing onto these bits. These are like the underflowers, and I'm going to be making some of these sort of top top edges of the flowers, and I'm going to be adding fabrics on. And what I've decided to do, I think, not 100%, you never know, it could change, but I'm actually using a bit of just cotton felt. If you can see that, just a bit of cotton felt to embellish the pieces onto. And what I'll have to do is do any stitching that I want to onto this. I'm hoping it's not going to pull in too much. I might actually put, I'm not sure, I might have to put a bit of stitch and tear in maybe, I'm not sure. This is very much work in progress, this is very much up for grabs. So as I say, embellish these little whitish bits down under there. I'm going to stitch onto here because any stitching that I want to do I need to do now, because that's just going to basically kind of sit on the top of that and be held in place either side, so that we've got lots of layers going on and you can see underneath. It's not perfect yet, as I say, it's a bit rough and ready, but I'm just showing you the gist of what I'm going to be doing. And then also I'll work down each one of these individually, and we'll eventually get this piece to a place where it's complete, and that'll just be lovely. But I'm very excited because I think these are going to really add in quite nicely once you put them onto the background, because the background's all lovely and textured now. I think having this sort of 3D effect is just going to be just fine, and a little bit raggedy and a little bit wild is fine really. It's all very loose, it's all very soft and textured and free. So this is what I need to do next, so I'll just concentrate on this and I'll show you it as I go along. Sometimes I have to turn the camera off, I'm sorry, but it's just that means I can really concentrate on what I'm doing and get in the zone. Okay, so this is kind of the first one that I've made so far. I haven't stitched into it yet, I'm going to do that next. But can you see all the colour mixing that's gone on? I've just embellished little bits of fabric, and it's lovely because it's as though you're crayoning it in. You get all these lovely colours just blending together, and that is going to go, let's move this thing around a little bit. So let's see where that's going to go. This is the one I've kind of decided it will fit, I think, more or less. So I'm going to stitch it either side, and then you'll sort of be able to see into that a little bit. Whether I'm going to do some little, I was going to say antennae, what's the word? Anthers and stamens and things coming out. I haven't quite decided that yet. It's a bit early in the day, but I think that one just needs some stitching. We'll see how that goes, and then I'll make some more. If it's a success, I shall make some more like this. Okay, so here's what the first flower now looks like. Just snip off the little extra threads that don't need to be there. And you can see it's quite rough and ready, but it's got all the different colours on. I did some stitching onto the top of it, and I did the stitching underneath, so that's just now going to sit there quietly like that, while I then get to work on the next ones down here. Okay, so what I've done is I've just traced around this roughly just to give me a starting point, because I just did these roughly in the first place, but I just think, well, I've got a nice shape going on there. I'll use a bit of tracing paper. It's not going to be this shape at the bottom, so I'm not too worried about what the shape is at the bottom down here. But we'll do it roughly around here like this. And then it'll just go on top like that, more or less, and then I'll embellish fabrics onto there, and it'll look much better than it does like that. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm adding a little bit more stitching to the sort of the base flowers, because I've added little bits of more fabric, little more bits of fabric. Is that how you say it? Anyway, so I'm just doing a little bit of stitching onto here, just so that that's all held in place, and the material all blends together. Just snip that off. I'm just going to change the colour of the thread now, because that's a really dark one. So I've got a little bit of white in here now. I'm just going to do a little bit of top stitching here. Just like all the other stitching on this piece, it's all very rough and ready. Obviously it doesn't really have to go right up into the flower, but I'm doing it anyway because it's nice to do it. And there we go. So what I'm trying to do here with the little flower is I'm just adding some other colours on top of the materials that I've got down. Again, I'm just trying to colour mix. I'm just trying to mix up the colours. It just breaks up the surface. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm putting the top flower on and I'm just pinning it on one side and I'll stitch it and then I'll kind of pull it in so that I know where to stitch the other side. But I'm just going to do one side at a time, just do it real slow. Okay, I'm just trying to find the best way to show you this. I'm going to just slide it up past you and you can see there's an awful lot of it not complete. I haven't done any of the top flowers on these bottom section. Okay, so what I have done so far is I've got these three done here. I'm trying to angle it so you can kind of see them with their little, they're like little shells, aren't they? It could be something you find on the beach. What I'm enjoying is, because I'm stitching it down one side here and then manoeuvring it to fit the other side, because they're slightly bigger than the underneath pieces, you get this lovely opportunity to create some shapes here. And, you know, I can manoeuvre them a little bit and play with them a little bit as time goes on. So it's quite exciting. I'm at an interesting point. I'm thinking I might even be adding on some little bits of extra bits just to make sure that these things don't just leap out at you. There may be some extra bits of greenery and brown stuff being put back on. Okay, so basically this is not finished. Oh my goodness gracious me, I haven't finished a piece. But as I've been filming this for you for quite a while now, I feel as though that's enough. You get the gist, you can see what I'm doing and where I'm going with it. And I promise I will show you when it is completely finished. But I don't want to rush anything at this point. I'm really enjoying each of these as a little creation in its own right. And each one is different. And depending on the mood I'm in when I'm doing them, it's quite interesting how the colours come together and what colours I'm picking. And I'm just enjoying the process, as I say, and I hope you have too. Thank you for sticking with me through this. And I'll just see you again in my studio next week. I've got a whole new thing kicking off, and I will show you it next week. I've got some new ideas. I think it's going to be a bit of a surprise, and we'll just see how it works out. I don't know exactly what I'm doing yet, but I've got a notion as to what it's going to be about. So we'll put this to one side in terms of showing you it, and I'll show you it when it's finished, and that means I can just take my time and do all of these extra bits and fiddle around and get my edges and everything done so that it's beautifully complete, and just really enjoying the process. It's meant to be slow. I'm not in the business of doing things fast, as you know here. It's about slow and relaxing and enjoying what I'm doing here. So, and it also gives it time to evolve. You know, when I think back to when I started this piece, I had no idea it was going to be like this. At that point, I just had a background and that was it. As I say, I hope you've enjoyed the journey with me so far, and I'll see you again next week in my studio, and I shall very much look forward to that, and we'll see what's going to happen next time. So bye for now. Ba ba da ba da ba da ba ba.